She healed people for a living, yet her own heart had remained untouched for years. Doctor. Areeba walked through the endless hospital corridors every morning with the same steady steps, the same calm face, the same quiet strength. She was known as the doctor who never panicked, never hesitated, never let her emotions interrupt her work. But no one knew how heavy her silence was. No one knew how many nights she went home to an empty apartment, eating dinner alone, falling asleep to the hum of the ceiling fan because the silence was too loud. She had stitched together too many broken bodies, yet she had never stitched together her own heart. The hospital was her world, and she had accepted that maybe this was all her life would ever be. Until the day a new doctor arrived. Dr. Zayden stepped into the hospital with a smile that looked strangely out of place among the white walls and stiff seriousness. He had a softness in his eyes, the kind that made people trust him instantly. He spoke gently, listened carefully, and carried a warmth Areeba had almost forgotten existed. The first time she saw him was in the pediatric ward. He was crouched beside a frightened little boy, showing him how to breathe slowly, telling him that even the bravest hearts tremble sometimes. Areeba had paused in the doorway. Something about that moment touched her. She didn't understand it then, but it was the beginning of everything. Over the next few weeks, they crossed paths again and again. In the medication room, in the cafeteria, during night rounds. At first they exchanged only polite nods, small professional smiles, but something started to shift between them like the slow turning of a season. When she looked up from her files and found him already looking at her, he didn't look away. When he joked lightly with nurses, she found herself smiling without meaning to. When he explained a case to a student, she admired the compassion hidden inside his calm. She didn't want to feel anything. She had buried her emotions long ago. But Zayden's presence, steady and warm, made something inside her breathe again. One stormy night a critical emergency case came in, a middle-aged man with severe cardiac failure. The entire hospital rushed into motion. Alarms beeped, nurses hurriedly carried instruments, and tension crackled in the air. Areeba and Zayden were assigned to handle the case together. Inside the operating room the lights flickered as thunder rumbled outside. The patient was in critical condition, his heartbeat unstable. Their hands moved fast, steady, practiced, yet every second felt like it carried the weight of life and death. And still, in the chaos, Areeba felt something she had never felt before. She felt someone standing beside her, not just as a colleague, but as a presence she could rely on without question. When the lights flickered again and the room dimmed for a second, she froze for a breath. Zayden's voice came low and reassuring through the darkness. "I'm here. You're not alone." And somehow that simple line went deeper than any reassurance she had ever received. For years she had handled everything alone. For years she had believed she didn't need anyone. But in that moment, she felt a truth she had never spoken even to herself. She was tired of being alone. The surgery lasted hours. When they finally stabilized the patient and stepped out of the OT, the hallway felt strangely quiet, as if the storm had stayed outside and left a pocket of peace inside the hospital. Areeba leaned against the wall, catching her breath. Zayden walked toward her with 2 cups of hot tea, warm steam rising from them. He held one out to her without a word. She took it. Their fingers brushed lightly, and for a moment both of them felt something shift inside their chests. "You always carry the weight alone," he said softly. "But even the strongest hearts need someone sometimes." She didn't know why, but her eyes stung unexpectedly. She quickly looked away, but Zayden didn't push. He just stood there beside her, close enough to offer comfort, far enough to give her space. She took a slow breath. For the first time in years she allowed herself to feel seen. Days turned into weeks, and little by little their lives intertwined. Not dramatically, but gently. That was the magic of it. They didn't fall in love like a storm, they grew into it like sunrise. Subtle, warm, inevitable. During lunch breaks he saved her a seat without saying anything. After long shifts she found a small energy drink left on her desk with a sticky note that said, "For the doctor who forgets she's human." When they walked through the hallways, their shoulders brushed sometimes, just enough to send a quiet spark through both of them. It wasn't loud or dramatic, but every moment was filled with a tenderness neither of them had felt in a long time. One evening they were both on duty, sitting on the rooftop terrace where the hospital kept old benches for tired doctors. The sky was painted with soft pink clouds fading into twilight. Patient files lay scattered around them. The breeze played with Areeba's hair and Zayden watched her for a moment before speaking. "You know," he said, "there's a whole story in your eyes." She looked at him, surprised. "Everyone says that when they want to sound poetic." He shook his head. "No, I mean it. You look like someone who has carried a lot and spoken very little." She swallowed, feeling the truth of his words. Silence stretched between them, gentle and unhurried. Then she said quietly, "And you're the first person I'm not afraid to tell it to." Something warm bloomed in his eyes. In that moment, something changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a simple shift, like the first crack of dawn breaking a long night. After that night the connection grew stronger. They found comfort in each other's presence. When she was exhausted, he noticed. When he was discouraged, she steadied him. They became two hearts holding each other up without needing to say anything out loud. Their love story wasn't one of dramatic gestures. It was built in the soft moments. When he handed her gloves before she asked. When she adjusted his mask before a surgery. When he checked if she had eaten. When she brought him coffee during long rounds. It was a love that grew not through declarations but through quiet care. But one night everything came into focus. A young girl came into the with severe trauma. The case was emotionally heavy, and despite their best efforts, the girl didn't survive. Areeba felt something inside her break. She walked out of the OR, her hands shaking, her breath heavy. All the strength she had held for years suddenly felt like it was slipping away. She sat on a bench in the hallway, trying to hold herself together. Zayden found her there. He didn't ask her to be strong. He didn't tell her to hold herself up. Instead he sat beside her silently. When she finally looked at him, her eyes wet, she whispered, "Why does it hurt more every time?" Zayden turned to her, his voice low and warm. "Because you're human, and because your heart cares more than you allow yourself to believe." For the first time in years, she let her tears fall freely. And he didn't look away. He just stayed beside her, solid and steady, the way she had always been for everyone else but never for herself. That night, something inside her healed. Days later, as they stood outside the hospital after a long shift, Zayden finally said the words that had been in his heart. "Areeba, you're the person I don't want to lose. You're the part of my life that feels like home." She looked at him with soft eyes, the evening light reflecting in them. "Zayden, you healed the parts of me I thought were damaged forever." They didn't rush into anything. Their love didn't need rushing. It was slow, steady, healing, built on understanding, on trust, on silent support. A love that didn't demand, didn't overwhelm, didn't break. A love that gently filled the empty spaces inside them. Two doctors, two tired souls, two hearts that had spent years healing others finally healed each other. In the quiet corners of the hospital, among the hum of machines and the soft footsteps of nurses, their love story continued to grow, calm, warm, and beautifully alive. The kind of love that doesn't need noise. The kind of love that becomes a home. The kind of love that stays.